Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Arel and I hope you're doing well. Today I will be doing a little show and tell about this baby right here. So this is the travel journal that I completed after my trip to the UK, specifically in London and in Scotland. So this was a lot. It took forever to do it and also put this cover together as well, but now it is completed and I am excited to share and talk to you all about the things. I am going to show you guys some spreads that I enjoyed making. I do have a full flip through of this journal that is just a flip through without any chatting. It's just some cute lo-fi music plus me flipping through this. So if you guys are interested in just looking at that, I will link it in the cards right now. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because as I thought about it, it's going to take me forever, honestly, to go through all of this because this is an entire book. So I will be flipping through it and kind of just picking out some things that I enjoyed making as far as the journal itself. The trip on its own is amazing and I could talk about that all day every day, but that's not why we're here. This is why we're here for just the journal part, and I might add some tidbits here and there, but I just wanted to focus on the process, that how I put all of this together, and let's get started. So to start off, the cover. So I have these charms right here. This is from both London and Scotland. So this charm, I got it at Edinburgh Castle and they literally just comes as charms. I believe there's a 4-pack. There's 2 others that I gave to my sister and one I have somewhere in one of my other things. And then this is a little crown jewel from Tower of London. I did buy this. It came in a pen. So there's a pen and this was kind of hanging on top of it. So I obviously got the pen just for this charm. So here's that. And then the patches themselves, I did get these after the trip. With the exception of these 2. I got the flag in Scotland itself and then this one in London. All of these other patches are all from the UK, but I did buy them on Etsy after. There were patches that were in the different gift stores that I went to during the trip, but I don't know, for some reason I just didn't think that was a good idea. And of course I had the idea after the fact where I was like, I was gonna put all these patches in a cover, and I have this cover from some Traveler's Company, but I did buy it pre-loved on Facebook because during the trip I bought these 2 covers with me. So I have the airline one and I have the road trip one. So those are the 2 covers that went with me exactly on the trip. And if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen that I posted photos of those covers while I'm in the actual places that we went to. So check those out. I will link the posts also down in the description box. Let's open her up. I didn't want to do anything with this front cover, so I just have a little title right here and some stickers I got during the trip. And then on the cover page, I wanted to do some sort of airline code type of look. These aren't really airline codes. I think Edinburgh and Inverness are. Maybe Glasgow too, but I don't think Skye has an airport, and obviously London is more London Gatwick and London Heathrow. But I just wanted to do that type of element, some stickers and washi. And then I did take this insert to Baumkuchen before our trip, maybe a few weeks prior, and I wanted to use the stamp and also their embossing. This was our travel day, so just some elements that I kept. Pretty much everything from packaging, postcards, stickers from cups, my boarding pass, receipts, everything. And I try to put most of it here. I actually still have some leftover ephemera that I will be just keeping in my little memory box, but most of the good stuff, they're all in here. So one of the styles that I kind of gotten used to while making this journal was to write on the postcards themselves, because I used to buy postcards and I don't write anything on them and then I keep them in a little album. But here I was like, I need to use them. So I wanted to do photos and ephemera for the actual insert pages. And then as far as some long form journaling, I wanted to use these postcards. And I actually bought some stamps because first I thought I was going to mail them to myself, but that didn't happen. But I still put the stamp on the postcard anyway. So I have some receipts right here, washi, just my handwriting, some stickers and photos. I kind of like this little effect where I just like cut out like ourselves from the actual photo. And then this was a really pretty postcard. Love that. And then another part was cutting up some brochures. So this was part of the brochure from St. Paul's Cathedral. So I cut that up as well as this one. And then this was from the packaging from the gift shop. Photos, obviously, and the ticket from our tour. And then more London stuff. So here I did the long form and the actual page. And then here sometimes I just write on sticky notes or some note paper that I have here. And then more receipts. A lot of the letter stickers you'll see. This was packaging from a different gift store that we went to. This was all over Westminster, so all the British stuff I put on there. Photos of Trafalgar Square, Elizabeth Tower, Parliament, the Mall and Buckingham Palace and Whitehall. And then this was a really pretty postcard of Westminster. So I just did my long form journaling there. And then more London stuff. So I have some maps that I got, stuck them on there. And then more long form stuff, letter stickers. We went to an emoji store. There was an MD pop-up. I believe it was in the London Graphics Center. So we went there. Went to a Chinese restaurant, so I kept the fortunes. And then next here we did the train ride from London to Edinburgh. So I have my pictures here in King's Cross Station and in the train. So this was a placemat that we had during our train ride, kept that. These are washi from TRC because we were on a train, so this was absolutely perfect. This guy was a little envelope that houses our apartment room key, so that was cool. And then I just have photos of the apartment itself that we stayed in Edinburgh. And then this is just from TRC. Love that. This was from a magazine, those travel magazines that they give you as little guides of the city, so that was cool. And then our first pub in Scotland, this was World's End. Food was absolutely delicious. The Royal Mile in Edinburgh, that was also absolutely fantastic. And had haggis, of course, and black pudding the next morning. It was actually really good. I liked it. It was one of those delicacies that you have to eat and you can only eat in Scotland, I guess, for a first timer. So that was fun. And then I met up with Bashwati right here. She is on Instagram. She's super sweet. We exchanged some goodies that I bought to ship it to her, and then she bought some stuff to ship it to me, and then we kind of exchanged some stuff. She gave me this postcard and some stickers and this washi right here. So cool. She was awesome. And then next, this was an Edinburgh Castle. So they give us a map, so I just cut up like parts of the map right here. This was the other side of the brochure. This is kind of pretty much like the highlight of each section that we went to all around the castle. I included our photos. This part was packaging from the gift shop. And then these stickers right here were from an Edinburgh sticker pack that I got. I believe I also got it in the castle, so that was cool. And then here I just kept like anything and everything. I think this was holding like our chips, like our fries, and this part was not as greasy, so I cut it up and kept it. This was the coffee sleeve from Cafe Nero. And then this is pretty much the map of Edinburgh right here. Photos from Victoria Street. This is from that Edinburgh sticker sheet that I got. And then this postcard is from the Museum of Contacts. That was fun. It's a licensed Harry Potter merchandise store, and they also have Harry Potter stuff from just local artists. So that was cool. I only got this postcard at that place, trying not to buy anything that goes back to JK herself, because, you know, we don't like her anymore. And then next is we went to the Real Mary of King's Close. If you are in Edinburgh, I highly recommend for you to do this tour. It was absolutely fascinating, and the tour guide that had us, he was awesome. He had so much knowledge and so many like fun facts, and also very entertaining at the same time, so that was cool. We went to a Mexican place. This was, I believe it's part of like their survey or something. A restaurant gives you the check, and then there's a little like thing, oh, like answer our survey. And then I asked if I could keep it, and they're like, yeah, sure, as long as you do our survey. And I did their survey. It was fine. I have the receipt right here. And a lot of thing too is that I have these two sticky notes with me that were pretty much ever present in these spreads, because I didn't want to write on the actual paper on the insert as much, because I can't write in a straight line in a blank page, so it has to have lines. So I have these two grid ones. This is from May Paper Co, and then this is from Muji, I believe, when we went to in London. And then still utilizing my letter stickers. And then next, I don't know why this ripped up. Let me take it up. And some of the things that I did is to tape these, either my postcards or photos, to the page instead of gluing it, because it just adds that open door kind of like effect, like this one. So we went to the Surgeons Hall Museum. Also highly recommend if you're into all the medical stuff, because they have halls and halls of cadavers that show different body parts and what the diseases are. So you can see lung cancer, abdominal aneurysms, brain aneurysms. Even me as a NICU nurse, I saw what a baby heart looks like that has tetralogy of Fallot. That was, I mean, I'm nerding out right now, but that was fantastic. It was so cool, so much to learn. We couldn't take pictures of the actual in the museum because of what it would do to the cadavers. So we just walked around, and then I just cut these up from the travel magazine that I got that's all about Edinburgh. And then this was a postcard that I got from the museum itself. So this is where I wrote what we did that day. And then this is a just a bookmark that they give away. And then here, so we went to the Royal Yacht Britannia. So this is like the royal family's version of like Air Force One, basically. And yeah, so we did a tour there. This was a napkin from the tea room that we visited, and so I kept that. And then this was just packaging also from the gift shop. And here are some photos. And then next we had some shawarma. Went to the oldest bookshop in Edinburgh, which is Blackwell's, so that was really nice. And then more stuff that I kept, receipts from Canoops, best chocolate drink ever. If you ever are in the UK, please visit Canoops. Like, you won't regret it. And then Isle of Skye, Candle Co, Swish, some souvenir shops that I visited. And then here is just I think this was just a freebie from that gallery that I visited. So I just added that there, put in a little description of what we did that day. So there's a lot of open door style of pages that I have here. And then next we went to Dean's Village. That was really cool. Highly recommend as well. Another pub. This was our last night in Edinburgh, so it was very emotional. Definitely want to come back and definitely want to spend more days here. I think you can do so much in Edinburgh itself. So the next part is we were going to the Highlands. So we were going to take a road trip to the Highlands. We had multiple destinations throughout the Highlands, and this was the first day. So we picked up our car. I kept the little ticket thing that was attached to our key from on our car, so I kept that. And then a lot more receipts, obviously, and different just like pictures from the magazine that I cut up, so that was cool. This one I made on Canva, so I kind of just showed like where we were headed. So we were going to from Edinburgh to Perth to Inverness, so that was kind of like a little graphic description of where our road trip was going to be. TRC, of course, right here. And then so we visited our first castle, Huntington Tower Castle. I added this little brochure. This was pretty much what you can visit if you buy the Historic Scotland week pass. So we had a week pass, I believe it was £30, 30 British pounds, that you can use for 7 days. And these are all the castles and different historical sites that you can visit. It's absolutely worth the money. We wanted to visit more, but we just didn't have enough time. But we definitely made use of this, because with this you can use at Edinburgh Castle, and then you can also use at Stirling Castle, which we didn't get to visit, unfortunately, but yes. And then just little abandoned castles like this. It was still pretty good. This was absolutely memorable. This is our first stop. We had lunch here. And we were the only ones there. It was so cool. And then we made our way to Inverness, but we still have other stops. We stopped at the Dunfermline stone, which was like in the Bronze Age, like 1200 years old. Absolutely insane. We also went to the Ruthven Barracks right here. I believe this was featured in Outlander. Could be wrong. And then stopped by for some coffee in Dunkeld. That was cool. So what I did here is I added this piece of vellum and I taped it on there so that it can have another really like page, because I just didn't know how much am I going to be using, because like this was obviously, this whole thing was only in one afternoon. Like this was only one part of the day, and I wanted to obviously do more to just commemorate like all those memories. And then the sticky notes are ever present. And then this is by the time we got to Inverness. So this was the view from our Airbnb that we stayed at. We went to this burger place. If you're ever in Inverness, Coyote Burger is the way to go. Obviously, like meat and food itself tastes like so different in the UK, especially the farther north you go. Even the freaking water you can drink out of their tap, it tastes so good. I just can't get enough. Scotland was absolutely amazing in every freaking way. So that was our first day in Inverness. The next day we did the tour of the Battle of Culloden. If you are an Outlander fan or know a lot of Scottish history, you know this battlefield was very, very famous, and it still is. So I just cut up like the brochure right here. This is the map, and then some of the photos that I took I kind of just put on there to loosely show like where they were on this map. And then I have like my little description right here. And then yeah, it was like super good. And then I kept our ticket, and then we went also to the Clavacairns, which is the inspiration for the stones in Outlander. They're not real, but this one was pretty much like kind of like the inspiration. That's why I took a photo this way. And then this is just a little description of the Clavacairns, like when we went. And then next, more stuff like that we did in Inverness. So we kind of walked around the city center. We did a distillery/brewery tour at Uleveist, so that was fun. Took some pictures of the food, all the drinks, and then this map right here. This is the map of Inverness that I think I got it from one of the shops that we visited. They just have these pads of the map of the city center that you can get, and then I just kept that. So just like look around anywhere you go, like they will have maps, brochures, magazines, anything that's related to the place that you are traveling to. Just keep all of that, because you're going to be using so much of it like for your journal. So the next day we left Inverness and we were off to the Isle of Skye. But first we traveled along Loch Ness. So this was an absolute dream come true. Whenever I think of Scotland, we always obviously think of the Loch Ness Monster and just traveling through Loch Ness. It was absolutely amazing to drive. I didn't drive myself like Brian did, but just driving along the loch and then just seeing so much green, so much blue. It was absolutely perfect. So that was really cool. And then next we went to Urquhart Castle, another postcard that I bought, and then some photos, some stickers. I think this one I just cut up on one of the magazines again that I got. So that was cool. And then another castle we went to is the Aileen Donan Castle, which is this postcard right here. I did not use this one because it's too big and I didn't really want to cut it up. So this is just going to go in my postcard album that I have. And then same as this postcard right here in Inverness. It's just way too big. It just didn't fit in the journal for me to like do something similar to this guy. But Aileen Donan Castle was really good. Also featured in Outlander. They have a really nice tour of the inside. They kept it more of like a museum as opposed to this one is very abandoned and very decrepit. So you kind of just walk along like the little points of interest, and then there's audio guides that can tell you what happened to that part of the castle during those times. It was still pretty cool. And then we got to Isle of Skye. I did cut up this map right here, some receipts. Here are some photos, more photos, just to describe like our first evening in the Isle of Skye. And then the next day did more Isle of Skye stuff. So we did Old Man Store, Fairy Glen, and we went to Portree, like their main city. So that was kind of interesting because it rained for maybe a good amount of 10 minutes. And it was very hard rain. Brian was absolutely soaked from the waist down. He was wearing a waterproof jacket. I was wearing a raincoat, so I was fine. So we stayed in the car for maybe 20 minutes just to let the rain kind of like stop. And it did. And then the sun showed up. And then maybe 20 minutes later, it rained again. Yeah. So like they always say in Scotland, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. We definitely learned that lesson for sure. We went to the Highland Cow Shop. It's a cafe slash a big souvenir store of just Highland cows. That was so cute. And then other stuff. So this one was from the Scottish tablet that I got, and I am absolutely obsessed. I don't have any more. I finished them all. It's kind of just like a really sweet candy from Scotland. So good. And then the sticker right here. Other stuff. So we did make our way to Fort William after Isle of Skye the next day. So this was kind of just like a review. This was our home for the day, and then some other notes and all that stuff. And then next, so from Isle of Skye to Fort William, we did pretty much kind of just exploring in Fort William. We tried to catch the train, the famous Hogwarts steam train that passes by, but unfortunately we missed it. So that was really sad. I cried, but moving on. We did a proper distillery tour, proper whiskey tasting at the Ben Nevis distillery. So got to taste whiskey for the first time. Very interesting and very strong. So I like took a nap after all that because I was out. And again, I didn't have a postcard for Fort William, so I just used the postcard from TRC that I got in Japan, and I felt like it was pretty appropriate as far as color scheme. So I just wrote down what we did that day. And then another picture of our car, like our parking tickets, more receipts, and then just different like stickers, Scottish like flower right here. And whatever I could use, I like put on the spread. And then we drove from Fort William to Glasgow, which is our last city in Scotland. So this was at the hotel in Glasgow. I used the hotel key little envelope thingy to write about our first night there. We did a McDonald's. We try to go to every McDonald's in every new country that we visit. And as far as the UK, my favorite part is the Biscoff McFlurry. Highly recommend. And then next, this was our full day in Glasgow. I took the map that we got from the hotel, just cut it up, did another vellum sheet right here, and then I pasted the map on both sides. And then these are pretty much the things that we did over there. We had some katsu, we went to several museums, walked around, of course went to a pub, and that is pretty much Glasgow. And then next up, we were back in London the next day. We took the train right here from Glasgow to London, went to Soho for a bit and walked around. This was in Oxford Street. We clearly didn't know that the photo booth was already running, so that's why this photo is a mess, but everything else was really cute. And then I met Elle of Elle Plans. She was absolutely fantastic. Love that she lives in London. So if you follow Elle Plans on Instagram and on here, she's not super active anymore, but she's still one of the most genuine planner people that I have met and the pleasure of calling my friend. So we went to Seven Dials Market. That was really nice. Ate some food, had drinks, and then also talked about planning, journaling, and also pretty much life. And then this is another London spread. We walked to the Tower of London for this day. We crossed the Tower Bridge, had some great coffee, had a meal deal. It's pretty much our favorite part in the UK, our meal deals. And then this is the Tower of London spread. I cut up the map and I kept these little tabs right here, so I just like fold them this way. And this is pretty much our day in Tower of London. And I have my little passage right here about our tours. It was really nice. My favorite part was probably the crown jewels and just walking around the grounds of Tower of London. And then next up, we were staying near Kensington, so we explored that neighborhood. We had Canoops again, visited Boots, got some stuff. We also did a few things. We didn't go to the castle itself, but we went to the park, so that was nice. And yeah, so we kind of just walked around and then had dinner. And then for our last full day, we had a day trip to Windsor. This is pretty much around Windsor Royale, I think, which is kind of like a little village that had shops and like all of that stuff. So that was really nice. And we took a bunch of pictures, had pizza, went to a cafe, and then we went to Windsor Castle. This is our ticket for the tour. This was just photos from all over, postcard of Windsor right here, and of course I talked about our day. And here are more receipts that I got from the different gift shops, St. George's Chapel and Windsor Castle gift shop itself. And then we came back to London. We stopped at King's Cross Station to visit the Platform 9 3/4 store, took some pictures, got this sticker, got a Hogwarts Platform 9 3/4 golden ticket. So that was pretty cool. It's like the only memorabilia for going to that store. There we go. And then came back to Kensington. That's where we had our last dinner. Hit a pub. We had fish and chips. That was pretty nice. It's at Lennon Arms. That was cool. And then we tried to go around the V&A Museum. It had a late closing time, so we were able to check out a few exhibits, and then we also had gelato after that. And we were pretty much just soaking up as much as we could of the city since it was our last day. And yeah, we were getting very emotional just walking around. We were definitely gonna miss it. And then on our last day, this was like photos before we took off on the airplane, and I absolutely love this postcard. And here I am just talking about our last day of the trip, and that is that. Like, see what I mean? I completely filled it out. I am so happy how this journal like turned out. I am going to be cherishing this book forever because this was an absolute trip of a lifetime. I am so grateful that I was able to go to London, and of course, like, I've finally visited Scotland. Scotland is in one of my top 5 countries that I've always wanted to visit, and I'm glad that I finally got to, and I'm glad that I was able to document that in a very memorable / unique way. And every time I would miss it, instead of going through my photos on my phone, I will definitely flip through this journal and then just reminisce about how great like the trip was. And as far as the journal itself, the process of me putting this all together, I want to say took about on and off maybe like 3 weeks. I just did it when I had some downtime, and it just so happened that there was a lot of downtime like at work. So for the first like 2 weeks when I came back to work, I actually didn't go to work, so I just stayed at home, so which was great. And instead of just wasting my time doom scrolling, of course I put everything together, and she is chunky as F, but I am definitely glad how it turned out, and yay! So sorry this was a long video. I honestly could have made it a little bit longer if I actually went through each page and what we did / like where I got everything from. So this is probably the most summarized way that I could chat about it without it being 3 hours long like a full-length movie. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you. And I hope I've given some inspiration and some tips on how to document your travels. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.